Hello YouTube, this is Germinator, and I'm going to go ahead and start off this video by saying that I do not have a lot of experience in Fallout. Y'all are free to correct me at any time I make a mistake. The most hours that I have in any Fallout game is Fallout 76 with about 18 hours. And the second most I have in any Fallout game is Fallout 4, and I have about 10 hours. And the other two that are really big, which would be Fallout 3 and New Vegas, I have maybe 2 or 3 in each. I have many more hours in Skyrim and Oblivion, but I'm not going to go ahead and get into that. This review is going to be more of a touch on PvP mechanics, but that's going to come at the end of the video. I will start with PvE mechanics and everything about PvE first, and then everything about PvP after. The single-player RPG-minded players that really enjoy Fallout, they like the single-player experience, they like the dialogue, they like interacting with NPCs, are going to be a little bit disappointed. Now, I don't want you to go to these inflammatory YouTube videos that are notorious for just throwing out misinformation about this game, or they go into the game not expecting a multiplayer experience. They go in experiencing or wanting to experience the single player experience that they get from any other Fallout game. You will not get that here. You will get some of it, but not all of it. The single player experience is not really here because you will see other players until they release the solo servers, which are coming. Just be patient, and it will break your immersion. I'm sorry. That's the game Bethesda wants, and I actually really enjoy the game. I do like single player games, and I love multiplayer games. Playing Fallout, even for the small amount of Fallout I've played, I've always felt like it could always be multiplayer, even though I've only played, a few hours of it. I didn't really like the fact that it was a shooter and, it was just only NPCs. And after a while, I kind of got a little bored. And now this is kind of when I started really getting into multiplayer games. Now, and that's me. And it doesn't have to be you. But I always felt it could always be so much more if there were other players there with you. Even if it was just your friends and no strangers, I feel like it could be a lot more fun. And Fallout 76 really took that to the next level. But before I get a little off track, we're going to go ahead and touch on PvE. There are no NPCs, no living ones anyway, that aren't enemies. That's how Bethesda designed the game. That's how it is. Everybody is really worried that there's not going to be any lore or as much lore, or you're going to feel like you're taken aback by the game. There's not really anything to do or no one to talk to. And the only thing that really you should be worried about is nobody to talk to. And that's okay, because arguably you're the first ones out of the vault. There's not going to be really anybody around to talk to yet, at least in my opinion, to do quests for. Most of the people you're going to be doing quests for have long since passed from the Great War, and you're mostly going to be working with notes, holotapes, scribbles on the wall, dead bodies, and the like. That being said, there is still plenty of to do in the game. I was never short of any quests. I was never short of being bored, aside from me being on my hunt for power armor, but that's just me. I had to look really hard. At least the further you go east, you have to look a little harder, but it gets better over there. So, you win some, you lose some. But there is plenty to explore, there's plenty to do, and that's just related to quests. I haven't even gotten to crafting or your base or even fighting NPCs yet. Crafting is very similar to Fallout 4 in the case of your benches and you're building your bases, so that I'm going to go ahead and just segue on into camps. Your camp follows you when you log out and log into the game. It disappears immediately when you log out, and it appears immediately when you log in. Now, you can leave your camp in a certain area and it will not move until you tell it to move, and at which point it might cost caps to move it. Now, the sooner you move it from the last move is the more it's going to cost. I moved it from 1 yard and I moved it another yard over, and it cost me 50 caps because I moved it immediately. There's a cooldown. So what you want to go ahead and do is just go ahead and build your base. Build your base to your liking, turrets, patios, shutters and stuff. And all of your purifying, all of your resource gathering equipment. And go ahead and build that there, and then worry about moving it later. You don't have to move your base immediately. You don't have to move it later if you don't want to. You might want to move it if somebody attacks it, but I was attacked once, and that's because they wanted my potatoes. I promptly murdered them. So the camp is actually really fun. It is very different from settlement building. At least it felt different from settlement building to me. It didn't feel so forced. It didn't feel like I was so restricted. I'm free to do whatever I want as long as I'm building within the bounds of the camp. I built my base in such a way that I can kind of put it on any terrain aside from the actual face of a cliff. So I worked hard to make sure that I can put it anywhere I like, and I can move on from there. I don't have to worry about replacing anything. So when you move your camp, people are worried it's going to destroy your base, like physically what you've built. No, it blueprints it automatically and it takes it with you. So as soon as you place down your camp, you'll all of a sudden have some big thing you need to place, and that's the problem with terrain. And so you have to build your base in mind with the terrain you're going to move it to. So what you can do is you can go ahead and compile all those parts, store them individually, and then rebuild the base in a different configuration without having to craft more parts. They really thought things through with the camp. You may have to occasionally worry about NPCs, coming up to your camp and finding an, occasional blood bug or bloatfly, and just go ahead and, just put a couple of turrets down and they'll make short work of them really quickly. Other than that, you really don't have to maintain your base. You don't have to worry about it decaying or whatever. But if you have resource gathering, it is beneficial to check back every now and then because they can fill up. Just go back, pick up your stuff, and then store it if you have to or use it if you need to, and then go back to doing what you're doing. Now, here's the part where people aren't going to like me, and here's the part where you're probably going to shut off the video. I like PvP. I like killing other players, and so we're going to go ahead and touch on PvP and the mechanics that surround PvP. So everybody is like, yes, slap mechanic, yeah, that's such a good idea, bounties, stuff like that. The slap mechanic works very heavily in favor of PvE. It is very, very biased in favor of people who want to PvE or just be by themselves. And unfortunately, in cases of stealing things from people's bases, it makes it nigh impossible for someone to retaliate against you if you're going around and stealing their stuff out of their extractors or their farms, if they can get to them. I had to fight some guy who stole from my farm, and thankfully he fought back so I could steal his junk and put it back into my base. But I didn't get my potatoes back. And that's a little bit irritating to me. PvP does scale too. That's another thing. So a level 22 can fight a level 9 and lose. It doesn't matter how good a gear he has. All that level 9 has to do is VATS and then hit you in the head, and he does the same freaking damage you do regardless of the weapons. I was fighting a guy who had a multi-purpose axe. I had the same one, so I knew exactly how much damage it did. You get it from a quest at that level, and it only does 27 damage. At most, it might do 34. I have a black powder pistol. It does 115 damage. That's 5 times the damage. And I have to two-shot him. He has to two-shot me with the axe. So, I mean, what fairness is that? I work hard, I go out and get my items, I go fight bosses to get these good items, and some level 9 can show up with an axe or his starting machete and do the same damage to me, despite the fact he's level 9. And that's okay. For the PvE players, it gives them an easy avenue to defend themselves if they decide to shoot back. But if people want to defend, let's say, a public workshop, which is like a public camp, but people have to claim it. If he comes up there and claims it, this level 9 comes up there and claims it, it immediately initiates PvP, and that's if you want to go look for PvP. That's what public workshops are for. They're not for anything else other than a PvP hotspot and the occasional quest completion. So I'm a little bit against this slap mechanic and scaling. If I had to pick, I would rather scaling not be there, if not be reduced a little bit. A level 9 should not be doing double or triple his damage or 5 times his damage just to keep up to me, who has pretty good armor already, who already has pretty good weapons, and worked hard for them just for some level 9 to come, just right out of the mill, right out of Vault 76, complete one city or just, 5 or 6 quests and be able to, ruin my day or fight me on the same level as any one of my friends. So the game really, really tries to push that they don't want you to really fight each other. They really want you to work together in that PvE experience while giving you the option to PvP, but mostly in self-defense or public workshops and go ahead and do, your little free mode death matches. Now there are events where if you go to this fortress, you can reenact a Civil War reenactment, and players will be Confederates and the others will be Unions. Me and a friend did this on the same team. He was a Confederate and I was on the Union side. And robots will help you on each team, and you can kill each other without regard, other than on the first kill you might drop your junk items, but after the event's over you just go and pick them up. It's not that big of a deal. And so if you expect to die in any aspect, please stash your items before you go out and die, because you will forget. I promise you will. Every time I'm gonna go out and I think I'm gonna die or I think I'm gonna get killed, I stash all of my items. You can find stashes all over the wasteland or at your base. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit off track. The game is fun. It's really fun. It's really, really fun if you have friends. It's a little bit lackluster, but it's still a really good experience if you're solo. Now, what surprised me, and now I'm comparing this to the Fallout 4 release, which I did have day one. It made Fallout 4, at least its first day, look like a steaming pile of flaming garbage. The game worked wonderfully for me. I didn't have any real bugs. I only crashed twice in the 18 hours I played, and it crashed in incredibly convenient times. I was at my base, and I don't remember what I did, but they were both different things to cause the crash, which I think the game had been running for, 5 or 6 hours at that point, and it finally decided to crash. It didn't crash for me during combat. It didn't crash for me while I was storing things or pulling them out. It just kind of, just shut up. And that's okay. I don't mind the occasional crash. Now, if it kept doing that, after launch, I'd be a little bit upset, but I don't think that's gonna happen because they already have patched the crashes that I caused. The experience was actually very well rounded for both PvE and PvP, with the favor lying though to PvE. So if you are worried about players coming to kill you, all you have to do is let them shoot you a little bit and they'll get a bounty. And players will come and hunt them down for those caps. And the best part about bounties is if you get one or somebody else gets one, that bounty to pay the other players comes out of your stash. So if your bounty is 130 caps and you only have 70 caps, too bad, the other player gets your 70 caps and additional 60 caps, and you have no caps at all. So try not to, go out and murder players for no reason. And so the bounty system prevents players from going out and murdering people for no freaking reason. I'm gonna go ahead and touch on quests again before I close out the video. The quests, there were so many. I have 15 or 16 in my roster already, and I can't seem to get rid of them because when I get rid of one, I get another 2. And the main quest is really fun and interesting, and it gets you going out there really far. It gets you to really explore the wasteland. My friend is already halfway across the map. He's kind of been zigzagging, following the quest all the way across the map. And the quests do give you pretty good stuff. They reward you with gear, types of workbenches. At least the first 2 missions with the responders, which when you first get into Flatwoods, will give you your Tinker's workbench and your Chem workbench, and that's pretty much it you really, really need for your base. But later, you will find a power armor crafting station. I don't remember where I found the planes, but I happened to find them. And I went ahead and used them, and I already have a full set of Raider power armor that I had to fight like 50 super mutants for, but it was well worth it in the end. But the game is a very good buy. Now, if you liked, now you can ask yourself these 4 questions if you want Fallout 76. So these are just for people on the fence. These are not for people who are pretty adamant on not buying the game, but you can still go ahead and ask yourself these questions. did you enjoy Fallout 4? Do you like exploring? Do you like building settlements or building bases? And do you like reading and finding subtle bits of lore? That's about the 4 questions you should really ask yourself if you really want to buy this game. If you answer yes to 3 out of 4 of those, you should really get the game, or you should at least try and get it out. If you answer all 4, yes, it's a must buy. If you got 2 of those yes and the other 2 no in any combination, it's kind of going to be a maybe. Like, you can try, you know, for an hour or 2 and then maybe return it. You don't have to worry about in-game opening cutscenes, except for, you know, what was pretty much the Fallout 76 trailer. And you just press escape, go ahead and make your character, and you'll be out of the vault in like 5 or 10 minutes. Make sure to pick up everything when you go out there, because one of my friends forgot to buy the machete, and I had to defend him from all sorts of crap, and it was kind of annoying. But the game is very good. There is a lot of bad press. I want you to please objectively look at the press and then research on what Bethesda has said about the game, what people who have actually played the game in depth for more than 30 minutes before they make a review have to say. That's why I waited well after the first day I was able to play this game, actually make the review. And I gotta say, while not being a big fan of the Fallout series in general, I'm a very big fan of Fallout 76, and I highly recommend it to people who kind of like a survival aspect, who like the RPG aspect, and who like a multiplayer aspect. And it is very, very well suited to all 3 of those things at the same time. If you kind of pick it apart and you go, is it an RPG game? Yes. Is it as big an RPG game as Fallout 1, 2, 3, and 4? Sort of. But it is very fun, and especially if you got another friend or someone who's convincing you to buy it. This video is really for more people who are sitting on the fence. So if you really want to try the game, or you have a friend who really wants you to try to get the game, and you answered those questions, at least 3 or 4 of those questions that I asked earlier, you should really give this game a try. And with that, I'm wrapping up this video. If you could go ahead and just drop a like or a dislike, or if you want to, you can subscribe. I really don't care. I don't really watch this YouTube channel very often. You can go ahead and do that. If you want to check out my stream, where I will be regularly streaming Fallout 76 for the next few days, and you can really check it out there. It's on twitch.tv/Germinator, GRRMINATOR. And you will see me and my friends there playing it. However, tomorrow on November 6th, I will be probably playing it alone, and you can see the solo experience there. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I don't know when I'll see you again unless I see you on my stream, because I do not upload to YouTube often enough.